Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, the Crypto Hipster, Jamil Hassan, where I bring you founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, artists, musicians, you name it, all over the world in crypto and blockchain. And today and the summer season, I am bringing to you a new compilation episode. Last year, from seasons 1, 2, and 3, I brought you the Crypto Hipsters Chronicles. And now, from season 4 and 5, without further ado, I bring you the Crypto Hipsters Mysticals. And what that is, what it was last year, and what it is this year, it's a compilation. It's a compilation of 3 or 4 podcasts together as like a montage. And on a certain topic or area of interest in crypto and blockchain, pulling from my podcasts. And now, as we're heading into the summer of 2023, I bring to you the Crypto Hipsters Mysticals. And there's going to be 22 or 23 or 24 around their episodes. And I look forward to you looking forward to it. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for enjoying my podcasts. And this is going to be a summer treat for everybody. So please sit back, enjoy, and let me know your thoughts. This is Crypto Hipsters Mysticals, episode 19. Challenges facing Web3 communities in social, gaming, and media platforms. This Crypto Hipsters Mysticals episode is a compilation of clips from 5 Crypto Hipster podcasts. First, Christina Rudd, who is the co-founder at Squid. Second, Kurt Ivey, who is the co-founder at Simple Crypto PR. Third, Ayelen Denovitzer, co-founder and CEO at Qubit. Fourth, Rick Porter, who is the CEO and co-founder at Discover. And fifth is Andrea Berry, who is the head of development at Theta Labs. Enjoy. Right. So some of the greatest issues facing users today, we talked about the user experience a couple of times. When they try to communicate across chains, what are the greatest issues they're facing today?
So I think, Cece, let's break it down into a couple of things. So security, trust, speed, also access, and then this notion of gas, right? I can dive into these a little bit. So security, this is an obvious one. So, beyond people being sketchy and going to jail, bridge tax has been the thing that this industry has been the most known for in the last couple of years. It's been the thing that's gotten the most headlines. I don't actually know the updated number, but it's billions have been lost in exploits / hacks. I think one of the reasons for this is because for like we've discussed earlier, right? Like having this ability to communicate cross-chain is so critical to this industry. People take shortcuts because there is so much opportunity, and that those shortcuts typically are at the cost of security, which again, people then take the opportunity of exploiting. Experimentation is natural when you're this early in an innovation cycle. But you're dealing with like hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, and you just can't really take those shortcuts. So there's a couple of different models, and they all typically involve different trust assumptions, and some bridges actually only rely on a handful of actors, typically in like a 2 or 3 multi-sig, and others are on the like completely different end of the scale and operating in a more decentralized and arguably more secure manner, and are secure by like more than 100 proof of stake validators. right? So that's one thing. Trust, again, I think I mentioned this a bit earlier, right? Where it's like, how do you actually get to from chain A to B? If you're not using something like Squid, you typically have to interact with, and even when you're using Squid for the first time, right? Like having to interact with an application for the first time can be nerve-wracking, especially when you're depositing funds. It's like taking a long time. And then you have to like go deposit to like another place, and you're trying to read up online on like watch YouTube tutorials or read blogs, and it's confusing and just not trust inducing at all, and introduces a lot of uncertainty, which is really not great. And then I mentioned this a bit earlier, speed, prior to speed boost. So all cross-chain jobs can take 20 to 60 minutes, to roll up. It can take 7 days. It's really crazy that this many people, that like this much money has actually gone through systems that are this slow. I think it's a testament to people really believing. And that's okay. But if we're gonna scale and have more users enter these things, that we can't be building systems like that. And then with respect to the access, so new chains are popping up all the time, and again, accessing these typically involves like understanding something new and even finding out about them. And there's just, I think we're still anticipating or putting too high of a burden on users when it comes to research. So there's this meme doing research, which is great because you should understand to a certain extent what you're interacting with, but expecting users to read smart contract code is like not the way to go. And then like on the notion of gas as well. So typically when you enter a new chain, you need to have their native token to pay gas, and if you haven't swapped into that, then you like send your funds and they're stuck, and then you need to find a DEX that has like a supporting pair, and it can just be a really really annoying situation where you can also get stuck. So we actually have a feature on Squid where you can send native gas with your transaction, and it's just a little button you press, which is handy.
Interesting. So what do you see? Let's see. A year ago, crypto was booming, right? Everybody was talking about the metaverse, everybody was talking about sharing, everybody was talking about NFTs. You sold NFTs for millions of dollars. You had all this hype, and now you have very little hype, right? So how is this environment different, and how are you navigating it from a marketing and relationships perspective as opposed to what you did last year? What are you finding, and what are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing a lot more legitimate projects, that's for sure. I think the bear market is squeezing out a lot of the riffraff, and you're just seeing people with money come in now. And some of those projects are still maybe less than perfect, but how we approach marketing is not all that different. A little less influencers like before, like I said, but getting you up on Google and growing your Twitter community and Discord community is pretty similar. But yeah, even though the hype has died down a little bit, it just means it works a little slower, but not that much slower. All the investors are still waiting with their cash. They're still waiting to put their money into companies. They're just being a little bit more choosy this time. So they're choosing a little bit more legitimate projects. And it's a little more interesting because we get to dive into things that we actually enjoy and believe in. So I think it's been sort of a good thing, even though everyone's hurting a little bit. These purges are somewhat necessary.
Tell me about it. So something I think I should talk about. I shouldn't talk to you about PR, but I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to ask. All right. So Satoshi Nakamoto, his vision was, applied to banking, was the removal of middlemen removal of the bank from banking, right? So payments are peer to peer. In your discipline, PR firms, I think, are seen by many as the middlemen between projects and the content creators. In a world where decentralized communication rails are being built, as you said, what will be the role of the crypto PR firm of the future, and what value do you and will you continue to bring?
Yeah, I mean, the basis of this question is great because, as working at ShopX and as a very strong proponent of decentralization, I hate middlemen. So, and I'm in that position. I think that we should be pushing towards a world without with as few middlemen as possible. The blockchain allows us to have this storage mechanism that removes middlemen. A lot of middlemen are just information brokers, or they control the flow of information. And when you have a third party controlling the information, everyone can breathe a little easier because they're not charging. The blockchain doesn't charge a monthly service fee. Maybe some gas. As far as us, how we're going to survive in the future, I don't really go into business planning on surviving forever. When I create a business venture, I want it to do as well as it can in the moment. And if there is no future for simple crypto PR, then that's okay. I want to do my best in the moment. But I believe that we will be able to shape and adapt to a new future where there's no middleman. In that case, it'll just be more about guiding, consulting, community building. Even though those, a lot of things are decentralized, there's still a place for people to get in there and just help shape how things evolve. So if there's a platform, for example, where like gamers, where the marketing is decentralized, there's still a place for us to get in there and write the content and guide the community and tell them how to go about their marketing. Like maybe we're the agency, maybe we're standing between the project and the community. We guide the community and tell them how to market the project, and that could be our role. So there's a lot of ways. Like obviously we'll have to see how things evolve, but that doesn't mean that there'll be no place for us. It just means that our role will be different.
I like it. In general, I like it. And I want to know, you said a word earlier that that during the bear market, people are less aggressive. But I've seen with meme coins and gambling tokens, there is a lot of aggressiveness. And I know the history of gamers is gamers in crypto. Like, I didn't think people have been burned, but people have been burned in games in crypto. So what's the best way, to expand, the gaming to the Web3 world from people? What will it take to get people there? And how do you remove that aggressiveness so that people have fun and are not victimized by whatever rug pull or whatever there is out there?
Okay, so your question is around, just to clarify, how you can protect gamers from bad actors in games, or how the native token from a game is scoped, just to go into the right direction.
The first one, how do you protect the gamers who want to have fun from being, taken advantage of, and how do you protect them and how do you help them?
Yeah, so actually one of the pretty cool things that we have at Qubit Wallet, it's called session keys. It is enabled by account abstraction. And what the player can define, let's say they are connecting to a new game, they don't have too much background, they're trying out a very new game. With session keys, what you can define is what assets, what NFTs, and for how long that game has access to. So for instance, you're never exposing the total balance of your wallet. Worst case scenario, so let's say I'm I'm trying this game. It's in polygons that I want the game to have access to X amount of matic for a week. Worst case scenario, if something happens, if there's a bad actor, that I don't know, maybe I connected to the wrong game, it was a scam, whatever it is, I would only be exposing exactly that amount of assets for that time frame. So that gives a lot more control to the user to not be exposing the whole wallet. And again, there's people spending a lot of time and a lot of money in games. You don't want to be connecting your wallet with everything in there to a new game that maybe you're not necessarily super comfortable with. So this gives like an extra layer of comfort and security for players to be on the safe side when trying out a new game. And again, there's a lot of new games that gladly there's a lot of teams working on launching games every single day. So I think we're trying to bring that comfort to players to try them out while being on the safe side.
I like the session keys. I like the idea a lot. How do you what some other onboarding measures that I think we can take that are necessary that will be helpful over the long term?
Definitely, yeah. Other measures that players can have in place or that we can offer?
Yeah.
From a wallet standpoint, well, from again going back to like the security things that account abstraction enables, session keys, multi-sig, social recovery in case one of the keys is compromised. I would also encourage everyone to do their due diligence, as always, right? There's a lot of products out there that are being launched. Some are great, some maybe you don't know that much. And I think that's probably one of the lessons that we have from 2022. Try not to rush into projects or products and try to do your diligence on what you're connecting to. Again, to be on the safe side, no one wants to lose money or have a bad experience. I do think blockchain is a great technology, and there's a lot going on. But again, it's also very early. Sometimes it's with no bad intentions, but there's mistakes done along the way. And I think, yeah, one of the good lessons is for people to be a bit more cautious on where they're connecting their wallets or where they are interacting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think that, back in May and June, my money's now stuck on Celsius, right? But it could have not been. I had noticed there were a few individuals who were going really, really, really hard after, Celsius and Mashinsky, like saying a lot of negative things, and they helped drive that run against them, the bank run, right? Yeah. Can you use Web3 to segregate and track the actions of malice on these platforms? They say, hey, those conversations were deleted on Twitter, but hey, on Web3, they're the blockchain, they're there forever. How can you use that as a public good?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Damn, that's a really good question and a hugely debated topic. So it's provenance, the history of something, and how will Web3 social media treat provenance? And an example is, let's go to the Celsius. Someone tweets something, and they were completely wrong, completely right. Doesn't matter. They decided to delete that information, and the history of that information is lost. In theory, someone could have screenshotted it or shared it, had some sort of record of it, but in reality, the authentic piece, the unique piece that was created, the original comment was deleted, and the history of it therefore is now fragmented and incomplete. Records are incomplete. So it's a big topic. Like, should everything in Web3 social media be permanent, right? Like, is that progression or is that regression, right? Are we progressing by making everything you say online permanent? And if you don't, who are you protecting? And so I actually was presented with this question within Discover itself. And an example someone was using in this argument was, well, when I was 14 or 13 years old and using the internet, I was an idiot. So and I mean, a lot of us were, I definitely was. But like, if I would have to live the rest of my life with the history of everything I've said, is that progression or is that regression? And do I have the right, and this is not a GDPR comment, but it sounds like one, do I have the right to be forgotten? Does my content have the right to be forgotten? So in this specific situation, who are we protecting, right? And who are they protecting? So going back to the Celsius situation, was that person a public figure? Was that person giving substantial investment advice? Like, are they comfortable with having their history permanent, right? And maybe that's just a different way of looking at social media, where you possibly have types of users who have flagged themselves as being on public record when they're saying something, and that becomes part of permanent record. And then maybe you have users who live in the anonymous, and maybe but maybe this person who is living an anonymous life, their content is ranked differently from users, or their content is has different styles of fact checking. So it's like, there's got to be this differential, or this way of defining content that is part of permanent record, or that is not part of permanent record. And then the users has to be transparent. So if someone's not going on permanent record on making a statement, then maybe that's maybe that information needs to be taken differently, right? They're not willing to live by that statement. But it's, again, like in Web3 social media, we present a lot of new paradigms to how social media will be constructed and how our social graphs will work. But there's a lot of double-edged swords to every angle that we take, and we've got to figure out, how do we dull out those sides?
How do we solve the problems? What are the major problems with churn, and how do we solve them?
Yeah. There's so many ways. This is where I get really nerdy about my job, because there's a lot of directions to take. But to give you a few ideas, a big part of the issues with churn that we hear from big streaming platforms is, sharing passwords, or it's just too competitive. HBO is maybe too similar to Netflix, too similar to Prime. And that's why it's called the streaming wars. I always joke it's called the churn wars, because really they're pouring so much money into win users or customers to then lose them and try to win them back. But what Web3 allows, and I'll give you actually a very literal beta product, is solutions here. So one being password sharing. We just patented the concept of NFT DRM, which is digital rights management. And it's the idea that you would use your NFT instead of your email login and password to get access to content. And as we know, an NFT can't be replaced or replicated, I should say. And I can't just send it to you to go ahead and log into my account with. I have to prove that I own it within my wallet. So right there, and then it really solves with the password sharing issue that we hear a lot about, that I'm probably guilty of with my family as well. But then more on the revenue side with churn, lifetime value, LTV, is something that we see in these streaming reports. And usually, a healthy streaming platform understands what their average lifetime viewer value is. And so they can, well, let's see, I'm trying to boil the ocean here for you, but the concept of like an NFT pass and a membership pass rather than a subscription and a monthly credit card charge is possible with NFTs. It's possible with Web3 technology. So, you know, we talk about this often with our clients and they're figuring out how to implement this. Is what if you knew your lifetime value of a customer was $500, let's say. It's $500, their credit card's going to be processed month over month before they average churn. So, you know, if a company knows that's a $500 number, what if they could offer a limited release of lifetime passes to their subscription service for $1,500? You know, they would have to add some kind of elements to make it feel more like a membership instead of your traditional subscription. Things like front of the line at Comic-Con with this NFT pass. Maybe you get a sweatshirt every year. You know, you can be really creative there, mixing virtual or in real life goods. But point being, it's a membership pass over subscription. And when me as a holder of this, you know, made up NFT membership pass, they don't want it anymore for whatever reason. Instead of me canceling my account, I actually just resell that NFT pass in the secondary market. And the company no longer is losing a client. They're making incremental revenue in the secondary market. That is like flipping the entire script upside down, with the biggest pain point in the industry being churn. You know, it changes the conversation completely. Instead of lost revenue, it's actually incremental revenue. I know that's a really specific example, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of one idea in particular.